Welcome back to the Titanium Hangar. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well today. Today I'm wanting to talk to everybody about this end of Masterpiece question hanging out there. This whole translation that's got a lot of people worried that Masterpiece is over, but we've got a little more information about these releases. We got some more stuff to talk about: price, size, scale, all of that that's going on with the new stuff. But where are we going forward? And I'm going to tell you what I think from a multitude of different angles coming up. First of all, I don't know if you guys remember, about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, Takara had put out another type of statement that got translated over, and they said they were working on simplification of the Masterpiece line. They were trying to make it more simplified. And as time went by, we eventually got this Skyfire, and I got to thinking that that was product of that statement, that it is a more simplified design. It's not ultra ridiculously complex, and the more simple it is, the less parts, the less manpower having to assemble it, meaning cheaper. This is a $260 release for probably the biggest figure they've put out in the Masterpiece line so far, and it's standing right next to a $450 figure that, I gotta say, even reissued bare bones, the MP44, because of its complexity, is still a $200 and some odd figure. So it's around a $200 figure. So looking at the difference between these side by side, I mean, I think you get more value and bang for your buck out of the Skyfire figure than you do the Optimus Prime figure. But all of this has to do with simplification, and I've got more to say about that. Their recently released Hoist, which is pretty much it's a heavy retool, actually, of their Trailbreaker. I like that figure, and I'm going to be talking about it in the 85 Masterpiece Buyer's Guide that's coming up next week. But the thing about this is, this does feel pretty simplified. This isn't ultra complex, and you might say, well, what are you going to compare it to complexity-wise? There is some complexity. This is nothing like the mainline one they made, because they made one for Hasbro mainline, and Takara, their engineers designed it, their designers designed it. But check this out. Let's just go back to MP39, and I've kind of touched on this, talked about this quite a bit, but look at the ultra complexity that we saw with this figure here, with the MP39. And if you're just to say, what would take longer to transform, the Sunstreaker or the Hoist? And I gotta tell you, Sunstreaker take a lot longer to transform than the Hoist, meaning that I believe they are going in a simplified direction, and that does reduce costs. You got to think about size of this Hoist, which is very lightweight, but he's a pretty solid figure overall, a decent figure. But looking at this, I mean, cost-wise are very, very close for a much bigger figure that you would expect them to try to charge you $200 for, right? They only charge you, what, $160? All right, now we get into the statement that a lot of people are really upset about and concerned about, and I just thought it was interesting that they did it, but there's more angles to this statement. But once it gets translated over, of course, the statement reads that the Masterpiece series will end with this work, with the release of the 100th model, and from now on, the top Transformers brand will be unified to the next generation top brand, Transformers MPG, which they already have Transformers MPG, and then that makes you question, like, what exactly is Transformers MPG? So I pulled up all this, and this is pretty much everything MPG so far. I mean, not really in chronological order either, but I think it's all pretty much there in the screenshot. And it's their train bots so far. So then they're doing recolors, or I don't even know what they're doing with all these other train bots. After it combines, you got the combined one, they're doing some recolors and stuff. But with this, the Super Jinrai is the next in line, and it's going to sort of be a cross between this and the Masterpiece line. I kind of personally feel like nothing's really going to change. It's just going to be the lettering of it, or the wording of it, and they're going to drop what they had in the past for the numbering and wording of it. But still, it's got questions. So MP60, there won't be a MP61. There'll just be MPG 10. What's that going to be? I mean, 09's a prime. But there's a lot of questions what's going on. But I still think we'll have Masterpiece. I think a Masterpiece Jazz will come out, and it'll be Masterpiece Jazz scale and size. But here's the thing. Will they look like this? I think these bots just do not look good to me. And are they simplified or are they really complex transformations? I don't know. I haven't handled any of them. But if they're complex transformations and that's the end result, what you see in front of you, that's kind of sad. But I really look at all this as just a tribute, a one-time Raiden tribute, Raiden tribute. And going forward, we're going to see more of what we've seen in the past from Masterpiece. And I'll get into why. But note the price that you see right there on this Super Jinrai, $279. Not a bad price, considering they say it's going to be 13 inches tall. And the bot by itself, the chest bot, is going to be 7.7 inches tall. Now, I do find it odd that they put this whole slew of pictures for MPG out, but they don't show it next to other figures like they always do. They always show them next to other figures. I find that really strange and really odd. Maybe in their mind they don't fit. Power Master Optimus Prime doesn't fit in the same world as figures they've been making, so that could be it. That could make sense. But what else are they making in the Masterpiece line that should have its own offshoot and shouldn't be numbered right along with it? Well, we've got one more coming. So they got Rhinox on the way, and he's due out in, I think, August, and he is a little pricey. He's in the $220 range for him. He's a pretty good-sized bot, but not huge. Not something I would consider in the $220 range. He does look pretty simplistic. I don't see a ton of gappy panel lines that you're going to have to transform this and that to use, and the character itself really isn't all that complex anyway. But looking at this figure, I think he looks pretty good and smooth. I think he looks really good. In fact, the best version of Rhinox that we've ever seen. But he's still considered Masterpiece. So does this mean the end of Beast Wars completely? Or does this mean Beast Wars is getting lumped in with MPG? There's still a whole lot of questions to this that have yet to be answered. And yes, this guy's still on his way. Getting down to the brass tacks on this release, though, I think it's going to be a very good release. And it's something in my mind that is definitely needed. Now, there's the KFC version out there, which I don't know anything about, and their cab's due out in October. This thing is due out in, I think, early 25. And with all that, if you get just the one on the left, the MP60, which is the same exact mold, but it's slightly repainted, probably look a little bit more, would I say cartoon when it's, yeah, maybe it's cartoon, I don't know. But looking at it, it looks really good. Now, it's $169 everywhere. I do not know what the Show Z price will be, but probably pretty close. Because they really can't seem to get a much lower price for Takara products. And on the right, we have the full-on Beast, which, as you see, everyone's doing the translations on the prices down below from the yen to the dollar and all that. But you don't have to anymore because we see Entertainment Earth and TF Source and BBTS and all the places have their pre-orders up for this to be $279, which is far below the $300 or the $320 or $330 people were speculating on before. The yen seems to be pretty weak right now, I guess, and hopefully that's the price when it comes out. I mean, obviously TF Source is going to own their price and hold that price, but I'm pretty sure it'll be the $279, and you get all this. And yes, you do get the cab. Some people act like you don't get the cab. You do get the cab with the $279 price. Now, you do get this base mode. The G1 had the base mode. I guess it was in the cartoon. I want to say that the G1 toy, the base mode was probably the best mode. Truck mode second, and the bot mode was a brick, and it was actually a step back from the original one. The Convoy, the original Optimus Prime, and of course people are saying that continuity-wise, like, it's not really the same character, but I was excited to have a giant Optimus Prime. I was disappointed that it didn't do anything at all. It stood there as a giant chunk. And so to have one finally that's going to have some articulation to it and look really good, I'm really excited. And so I'm going to have to obviously do a review of the vintage one that I have, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So what if MPG-10 turns out to be something that doesn't fit your suitability, your sensibilities, your expectations out of a Masterpiece figure. Well, don't worry, third party's still there. And I don't think third party is going anywhere. So in the past, we've seen third party companies would just follow the trend of Takara. But if they go into something that looks less good, less like perfection of cartoon walking off the screen, I think third party's going to keep doing what they do and just really ignore Takara. At this point, if Takara's not still putting out Masterpiece figures that feel like their Masterpiece, look like their Masterpiece, just slightly simplified, then I just don't think that anybody's going to care. I don't think that Fans Toys, Extransbox, MMC, I don't think any of them are really going to care. And at this point, by this point, I kind of feel like Takara sees the writing on the wall, and a lot of people like the third-party stuff even more. And so with that, they're looking to cut their costs, but still put out product and make money. And Takara pretty much sells anything that they put out. But looking at this, I do want to point out one thing. Viper, it's not in this, but the Viper is $165 at Show Z, cheapest that I've seen anywhere else. So I do kind of feel like everything wrapped up in a bow here, that this last release does kind of signify a simplification of the line. It does signify that it's still in the scale, even though this version of Optimus Prime is not going to be the 9 point something inches, almost 10 inches tall. It's going to be closer to a little below 8 inches, but then again, it turns into a 13-inch figure, which is correct size for a Masterpiece. And so with that, looking at the aesthetic, looking at the simplification, I think this looks great. I think this is a phenomenal looking bot. And with that, I look forward to seeing what Takara has up their sleeve. If it's a lower price point and it's a simplified design, I'm okay with it. Would I buy all of them? Probably not. And if they don't live up to kind of what's already been done, then I don't see the direction. But if it still looks great, like this looks great, and it's not ridiculously complex, then I could see some people getting on board with it. If it's an all-new scale, which I don't think it is, then I think that a lot of people are just going to wash their hands of that and keep doing what they're doing, whether it's Masterpiece, Legends, or Mainline. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Was any of this information helpful? And of course, if you've got any other ideas on what's going on here, I'd love to hear them. Like and subscribe, and Tidarium Hanger out.